Crown Jewel from this past Saturday and essentially what led into after Crown Jewel. Now, Brandon, I know what made some of this interesting going into Crown Jewel was the big segment last week on Raw where Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman talked about what happens if I lose. And essentially, it made it a must win for Seth Rollins because of the fact that Paul Heyman said, frankly, you're going to lose the division. You're going to lose the locker room. You're going to be what a lot of us, in the wrestling fandom think that Seth Rollins is, and not Seth Rollins, but the belt that he holds is, and that's a secondary champion, right? We learned that last year when Gunther faced Cody Rhodes for this same Crown Jewel title, and Cody Rhodes, quote unquote, which they like to throw around now, QB1, is the man who runs the place, right? That's the championship. Cody Rhodes, when he went against Roman Reigns at 39, that's what went off WrestleMania. 40, Cody Rhodes. 41, Cody Rhodes. So essentially, that belt is the belt. Seth Rollins' belt is the B belt, right? So I thought this was a must win for Seth Rollins, and he proved it. So let's talk about that. Seth Rollins gets the win against Cody Rhodes in the main event of Crown Jewel. Tell me a little bit about what that meant to you and what that said to you going forward with Seth Rollins.
To me, and I know we're going to get to it in just a little bit, and initially made me think, okay, Seth's the QB1. He's going to take the vision into the future. And it's going to be a long-term, group, and Braun are going to, stick with him. Paul Heyman's going to be right there with him because you just mentioned it. You just teed it up. If he would have lost, he would have lost all of those things you mentioned: the locker room, the vision, the entire thing. But he won, so I was like, okay. Let's see what happens next year.
And I think he needed to win, right? And it's not just Seth Rollins needing to win, but it's that belt needing to win. This is the second year they've done this Crown Jewel, right? And to be honest with you, we can go back a little bit further because remember they did best versus best a few times in the past. Roman Reigns versus Big E at Survivor Series. I was there. I'm going to give you a heads up. Maybe you can guess without looking up the results of 2022 or 2021 Survivor Series. Big E versus Roman Reigns, title versus title. Which champion do you think came out on top in that match?
Between who again? I'm sorry, I lost my.
Come on now, Roman Reigns and Big E. They were the champions at that time. Survivor Series 2021. Which, come on, it's Roman Reigns, the tribal chief.
It's obviously Roman Reigns in that case.
Come on, don't be silly, right? Because that's essentially the same title that Cody Rhodes has, right? So it's not so much Seth Rollins needed this win, but I think that belt needed this win. And I think that belt was a different one than what Seth has, but that's another good example because Roman's belt kind of has always stayed the same. Roman's belt and the belt that came before it. And now Cody's belt. And it's these other belts that get kind of merged in with it, like when Brock Lesnar lost just a few months later to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 2022. His belt merged into Roman's belt. They had to create new belts. So I think to give these belts legitimacy, somebody like Seth Rollins needed to win, coming off of Gunther losing, obviously, in that same spot last year. So that belt needed to win and to kind of show that this year that belt might have more credibility. But a lot of people noticed in the match, which I didn't at the time because it's a hard-fought match and it's wrestling and the story, but that Seth Rollins seemed to maybe have hurt his arm, his elbow. He was kind of holding it after a move.
To me, it looks like a shoulder.
Yeah. It was because he's kind of holding his whole upper arm area.
I'm not gonna lie. When you asked me the Roman Big E thing, I was looking at the video. I had a video pulled up. I was looking at the actual move where people think he injured the shoulder, and it looked like that diving headbutt from coast to coast is the spot that looks like he got injured from what I'm seeing here. That's where I was like, when you were asking me the Big E Roman thing, I was like, that's what I was seeing. I'm like,
And what makes it a little more legitimate looking is obviously it wasn't a move that hyper focuses on that body part. So it's not like, it's like if I get hit in the head with a chair and I start grabbing my leg, that doesn't help the story, right? If I get hit in the head with a chair and I start holding my head, then all of a sudden you're like, well, maybe he just got hit. He's selling it. This is the story. This is
it looked like he landed that coast to coast a little funky if you looked at the video.
Yeah, it was something that wasn't essentially a part of the move in the sense of like, like I just said, like
it wasn't. He's not getting a concussion. You know what I mean?
If I'm in a wrestling match and I sweep the leg out for somebody and they land on their back, they're going to be selling their back, right? They're not going to be selling their fingers, right? Because that had nothing to do with it. So the fact that he's kind of holding his shoulder area after a move, which again, a positive move on his end, so he shouldn't necessarily be as hurt because he's trying to go for the pin, and then he's holding his shoulder, not
it's
the best.
also a move he doesn't normally do either.
I mean that could also make it so it makes it a little more difficult. Hey, and I don't, when we talk about coast to coast, I think maybe WWE might be wishing now down in Australia that they had that AEW ring from AEW Australia Grand Slam a couple months ago, that shrunken ring. Yeah. So Seth Rollins didn't have to go as far on that coast to coast. Yeah. So maybe they're wishing they had that Australian specific ring that AEW had a couple months ago at their event in Australia. But didn't think anything of it at the time. Obviously, Seth Rollins gets the win, right? The show goes off the air with him and Stephanie Vicaire, as the Crown Jewel champions. Really, kind of anticlimactic in that sense. A good overall pay-per-view, good ending. The next day, because it's an off day, right? Because pay-per-view's on Saturday.
Yeah.
On Sunday, somebody took a picture of Seth Rollins out in public with his arm in a sling, which didn't. Yes. And again, I guess my question is like, what is Seth Rollins doing in that sense of like, I get it. You want to take pictures with people and want to be nice. He doesn't look like he's excited to take the picture, but either way, like he kind of leans into it and accepts it. So I'm kind of like wondering, what's going on there, why he would accept to take that picture in sling. Maybe it's fake. Maybe it's an old picture. We don't know. And then on Monday Night Raw, we saw what happened. And I have to say, kudos to WWE because these Raws and SmackDowns were on at 8 o'clock in the morning with the pay-per-view included, right? So 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. And Australia's going to sell out anyways because it's Australia. They don't get WWE. You can give them house shows. They just had a house show last night in Melbourne. Got 16,000 people because of like, hey, WWE is in town. They don't ever come here. I want to see Rhea Ripley. It's not just seeing John Cena for the last time. For a lot of them, it's seeing John Cena for the first time. It's seeing everyone for the first time. So it's not just, hey, we got to see John Cena one last time. Well, yeah, because, he could retire next year and this might be the last time based on this of them going to Australia, right? Yeah. But, kudos on WWE for giving us a Raw that wasn't just, hey, we can phone this one in. It doesn't have to have anything special. It's in Australia. We can just kind of give everybody the good go home, keep it to nothing. No John Cena turning heel needed. No Rock appearance needed. No big, huge WWE moment needed for this Raw. But yet they gave him that. And at the end of the show with Seth Rollins and everybody going off the air, as the vision was strong, you see Braun Breaker with the spear. And then you see Bronson Reed helping out with the tsunami. And it appears the vision, or at least with Seth Rollins at the helm, is over with. Now, at first, again, didn't put it in my head that he was injured, didn't put that thought in my head from the picture over the weekend, but now obviously putting it all together, is this how the vision was supposed to end? Is Seth Rollins this time actually hurt?
Seth Rollins is actually hurt because the reports that I've been seeing out there, they weren't breaking up the vision for another, probably until earliest WrestleMania or SummerSlam, like next year, not October of 2025. I'm thinking springtime 2026, summertime 2026. So obviously, to me, this was a pivot. They knew Seth was hurt Saturday. They had a full day to prepare on Sunday, and had another a good portion of the day, obviously Monday as well, because it was on at 8 o'clock Australian time. So almost 2 days, we'll say, to think of something, get creative with it. And they had to pivot, which means everything that they booked in that area, like for the vision for the next 6 months, is null and void, obviously, because that's done. So the next thing is, what's your plan B here? Because Seth Rollins is probably going to be out for a while. I'm hoping it's not what I think it might be, and my gut's telling me it's a torn rotator cuff, and I hope that's not the case. I hope that's not the injury. Hopefully, it's just a tweak. Just needs a little R&R, and maybe they're going to build this where he takes a month or two off, and then we see him go after the vision and all that later on. So that's to me, it was not supposed to end the way that it did on Monday. That is no doubt about it.
Yeah, I don't want to see any more relinquishing championships, things like that. I'm not a big fan of that. I think obviously because that world heavyweight title goes around a little bit more than like, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, those belts are, held for years at a time for the most part, right? Cody Rhodes had it for a year, then John Cena had it for a few months before Cody Rhodes got it back. So I don't want to see that hot potato with that belt, especially with CM Punk as the number one contender. I don't want to see him winning the belt against LA Knight on a Monday Night Raw. This obviously deserves to have a little more build to him if he's going to become the champion.
I think what we're going to see here, and it's a clear shot across the bow, so to speak. I think my guess would be it's going to be a triple threat match. I think Braun Breaker is going to be in it. I do think LA Knight, and I also think CM Punk will be in it. But I hope this is the pivot that turns out good for LA Knight, because LA Knight's been at the cusp. He's been the butt of the jokes when it comes to the championship picture and the lack of title and all that stuff. I think if they're going to pivot this the right way, I would love to see LA Knight be the victor in that situation. I think that would be a good thing for him. Just like, think of it years ago where Mustafa Ali was supposed to be Kofi Mania, and obviously Kofi Mania became what it was. So injuries do happen, and I hope it's not serious for Seth, obviously, but if it is something that they have to give up the title, wouldn't it be just wonderful to put it on LA Knight? That would just be a lot of fun.
And what this, if this is planned, then I think it's awesome because it really it swerves us. Because here's the thing, there is a pay-per-view PLE coming up in where it made perfect sense for the Vision to not break up. So much sense that a lot of people were complaining that it's just getting so predictable in how we're getting War Games set up and what we're getting at War Games, right? Wow, what do you know? A faction with a bunch of people in it, in a match that is built for factions with a bunch of people in them, and they're all bad guys. And here we got a bunch of good guys over here. It's like we've seen this now. This is going to be the, fourth straight year of War Games, right? 22, 23, 24, so. 25. Yeah, so the fourth straight year of War Games, because we had obviously the one in Boston, Bloodline 1, surprise, with help of Sami Zayn, right? And that was the whole Roman is Sami Zayn with us. And then in 2023, all we can really remember is CM Punk coming back at the end. And then we had one last year in 2024 as well. And it seems like the faces, or I guess other than the Bloodline in that one case, seem to be the victors in these War Games matches. But it seemed set up for the Vision to be here. And I think, obviously, if this is a swerve, it's great because you're breaking up a faction, going into an event that is heavy on factions, which would really be like the surprise of the century, right? It's like having a pay-per-view named Rock Bottom, and The Rock's in the Royal Rumble the night before, and the winner goes on to Rock Bottom to main event, and The Rock doesn't win. That would be like, wow, we're expecting, obviously, Rock Bottom to main event Rock Bottom. But if this is not a work, I'm still either way very interested in how they're going to make this happen at War Games.
They have, 6 weeks? This is kind of nice. They got.
They do got a little bit of time. But if it's not a work, I'm interested in how they're going to make it work. But also, probably more so, it's an anti. I think this is why you don't have pay-per-views so heavy on specific things, because it makes it difficult to pivot. Meaning that if they do pivot, and it isn't a work, it might be a little forced. It might be like, oh, it's kind of like this wasn't supposed to happen. This was supposed to be Bret Hart leading a team at Survivor Series versus Shawn Michaels, and now we're getting Jerry the King Lawler leading a team against Shawn Michaels. Like, that doesn't make any sense. That's just kind of a waste. And we've had that before. Kurt Angle joining the Shield, if you remember. I think that was a Survivor Series tag team match with Kurt Angle in the Shield. And it kind of just shows you, like, this is why we got rid of the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, because we don't want to, advertise our playbook so far in advance. And I think, Survivor Series, it's fine as a pay-per-view. It's done a lot of different things, and War Games being a part of it for a couple of years was really cool. But now if we go too heavy on this War Games idea, it really puts us up against a wall to be able to pivot in a situation like this. If this is a real thing, there's a chance it could be interesting, because they got 6 weeks. But there's also a chance that it could be just an absolute forced, like, wow, like the John Cena heel turn. It could just make no sense. Like, why is LA Knight teaming up with Bronson Reed? That doesn't make any sense. It's like, well, because we already advertised War Games, we already sold tickets for it.
I mean,
We got to make this kind of thing up.
the obvious answer here is Brock Lesnar joins. That's what I would say with Paul Heyman's ties.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think if they did use that 48 hours when Seth Rollins got hurt to kind of pivot here, and do something great, and obviously keep the vision together, but maybe have a different leader or something like that, then yeah, I'm all about it. Brock Lesnar would be a really cool leader, specifically because we obviously just saw at WrestlePalooza, for example, Paul Heyman, right? He's still got a soft spot for Brock Lesnar after all this time, right? So, and I guess it would really make Paul Heyman the voice, because I don't see Brock Lesnar like taking the mic like Seth Rollins did. Would you say the same thing?
Yeah, Brock's not too bad on the mic. He's not the best on the mic, but I don't think he likes it. I don't think he likes being on the mic, but he'll cut a promo here and there, and it's not that bad, I don't think, for Brock Lesnar. But yeah, I think Paul Heyman would be the voice of this team, because let's be honest, that's still the weak spot with Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. I don't think they're good enough talkers yet, and I felt like Seth and Paul carried most of the weight with the talking part when the Vision was a whole group. So yeah, I think Paul is going to continue to kind of be the voice of this group.
One thing I noticed while watching Monday Night Raw on Monday, earlier in the night, Seth Rollins kicked off the show, and he was talking about the Vision. And one thing I noticed in that segment is he said, and I noticed that Braun Breaker gave him kind of a weird look in when he said this, was that he didn't need the Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. He didn't need them. He said he chose to have them. He wants them in the Vision, but he doesn't need them, and he can do it without them. It's like, I don't need a girlfriend, I want a girlfriend. And he kind of tried to phrase it in a way which makes it seem like a positive for those two, but it also can come off as a negative if they felt that, no, you needed us. It's not just that you enjoy our company, but also to, like, don't get it twisted. Without us, you wouldn't have won those matches. Like, Seth Rollins was taking credit, saying, I've won these matches without them. I choose to have them around. And I think they took umbrage to that and thinking, maybe, no, you didn't. Maybe we helped you win those matches.
Well,
so you didn't need us.
That was the first time when I watched Seth say those things, like, I didn't need you guys. That was the first time I saw the facial expressions of Bronson and Braun Breaker kind of change a little bit. And then I was thinking to myself, wouldn't that be interesting if they turned on him? And we got it just a short time later. Wild.
And they pulled the same thing where they put the credits up on the screen, and the show is over, quote unquote. And you gotta stay tuned. I was trying to keep it cool because I was watching it live on Monday morning, and I was actually having a little, like, I wouldn't say a meeting, but I was at work. I was in the office. I had it on the office, and I was looking over at it, and I was talking to somebody about work-related items, and I saw it was going off the air, and I was chit-chatting, and then I look over at the screen, and I see what's happening, and it was like, I'm still having that conversation, you know what I mean, with somebody who has no idea. They think I'm watching wrestling highlights because it's 8 o'clock in the morning. So obviously they think whatever I'm watching is highlights from 6 years ago, for all they know, right? They don't think I'm watching this live. They're probably wondering, why is this guy watching like wrestling clips on YouTube at 8 o'clock in the morning? So, and it was kind of funny because a coworker of mine who does like wrestling, I was nice enough to think, okay, they're a little more of a, important. Maybe they take their work a little more seriously. And I'm not going to go and spoil anything. They're probably going to watch it later, like a lot of people would, right, who don't have the luxury of putting it on at their desk. And also maybe also take work a little more seriously, like I said. But it wasn't no more than an hour later before they were at my desk saying, hey, have you seen Raw? And I was like, I have seen Raw.
Yeah. And I got that text message from you, like, because I did not watch it right away. I watched it a few minutes, a little bit later. And it, like, as soon as I got that text from you, I was like, shoot, you know what? So what I did was, just so I could watch it in the short span, watch the beginning, and then I watched the end pretty quickly. And then we talked, and I was like, yep. I was like, saw,
And it really overshadowed CM Punk's win as the new number one contender, too, because I thought, that was essentially going to be the highlight of the night. CM Punk is the number one contender for the World Heavyweight belt, which I think is a big deal on its own, for sure, obviously. It was a big triple threat match in the main event of Raw. But swerving away or steering away, I want to, when it comes to Crown Jewel, specifically talk about something else, and that I think was the match that I obviously stole the show, but I think in his retirement run, his best match. John Cena, AJ Styles. What did you make of that match at Crown Jewel?
It was phenomenal. I guess there you go. Pardon the expression there, but it was phenomenal. It was everything that I wanted out of those two. It was like, to me, it was like you go to like a concert and you're like, I want to see their greatest hits. You know what I mean? And it was like, and like, even think of it this way, I'll take it this way. It's like a cover band playing like the greatest songs of all time kind of a thing. And they're doing all these great moves of all time. They're tipping their cap. I don't know about you, but I was starting to cut those onions a little bit when Bray Wyatt's move, and I saw Cena almost broke character. His eyes were starting to get a little wet. Like, it was like things like that. Like, they were doing all these moves, Chris Jericho's moves. It was awesome.
It was awesome too, because at first, right, they weren't calling it the Walls of Jericho, right? You know what I mean? And you were saying, okay, they're not going to call it the Walls of Jericho because it's just. And then once they called it the Walls of Jericho, all of a sudden, to me, obviously they did all the other moves. You know what I mean? They did like the Tombstone, they did the Miz finisher, they did the choke slam, right? They did all of that stuff. Even AJ Styles got involved, right? We saw some Randy Orton moves in there. Yep. But when they called it the Walls of Jericho, that opened me up to saying, hey, wait a minute. Because obviously there's been the rumors of Jericho, eventually maybe coming back to the WWE. Maybe before we're done here in this, we got 4 dates left for John Cena, 1 pay-per-view left, obviously 1 Saturday night's main event and 2 Monday Night Raws. Could we get Jericho in there as a last opponent for John Cena?
When's his contract up, though?
I'm not 100% sure, but,
from what I read, it's after the tour's up, the Cena tour.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I don't know. I think
you're right. I think it's after the new year. Yeah.
I think it's the end of this year. And then what I think is going to happen, early prediction on this, I know we're a few months away, but I could see Jericho returning at Royal Rumble.
But, I mean, just the fact that you're acknowledging Jericho, not like you want it. He's a bona fide Hall of Famer. But, that was the first move on, like you said, the Greatest Hits tour. We saw with all the moves, like I said, the Miz's move. We saw Undertaker's moves in there, all that stuff right there. So, it was, like I said, a great match. I think the best John Cena match of his retirement tour, better than his matches against Cody Rhodes. I think his match against Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam is definitely his best match till the match against AJ Styles. Yeah. And then this one was the best one.
Honestly, this is one of John Cena's better matches in a long time. I mean, Cody Rhodes aside from Cody Rhodes' match, that was obviously at SummerSlam, that was good. But I mean, aside from that was probably one of his best matches in the last few years. And I liked the way it was done. I love the respect. Like, John Cena in the beginning of the match, like, had the ring announcer, pretty much saying AJ's the leader of the Bullet Club, and and acknowledging the Bullet Club, by the way, like that was a cool
John Cena kind of wrote his intro for him. I saw,
yeah, that was good.
Which was really cool, acknowledging the Bullet Club and his TNA past and things
and the
like
face that runs the place, that whole thing. It was the whole thing.
And we're leading into what is essentially going to be AJ Styles' retirement tour next year, and I'm looking forward to that a lot. But either way, I think not just Crown Jewel, because overall the pay-per-view was all right. The match, obviously, that match was the best. Seth Rollins winning was pretty good. Stephanie Vaquer beating Tiffany Stratton, and I think Tiffany Stratton is the face that runs the place right now in WWE. But Stephanie Vaquer is kind of on a rocket ship. She just won the belt at like the last pay-per-view. Yeah. Now she beats Tiffany for the Crown Jewel title. So good for her to get this like very short period of time push from essentially just over the summer till now. So a decent pay-per-view overall. I mean, the tag team match with Rhea Ripley, give or take that's just a spot for Rhea Ripley, to
Yeah,
show off in
home
Australia.
country.
And
Bronson Reed and Roman Reigns. I thought that was a good. I thought that was a good match.
yeah,
I enjoyed it, and it was good for Bronson in his home country. So that was the same thing as Rhea.
yeah.
He got the cheers too. I hear the
And then Monday
Bronson
Night
Reed
Raw,
stuff.
I think, was a perfect finale to that weekend. So, WWE, I would say heading into Crown Jewel, I was starting to slow down. I was starting to be like, this might be the time, we start to take a little break. There's other things going on in the world. It's not like football or basketball or baseball or anything else, right? Where you have a season and you can kind of take that time off. Wrestling, you got to give your own time off. You got to say, listen, I'm not really that interested in what's going on right now. I'm going to give myself a break of a month or two before things start to amp up. AKA the Royal Rumble is essentially like opening day. It's like that's when you start to really get interested, and then it's even till summertime. Like around SummerSlam, you start to get interested again. But it's this time of year where things start to get a little lull while we wait to figure out what the
The
plan
holiday
is going
season
forward.
too. It's the holidays.
Yeah, starts to get a little lull, but good on WWE and maybe the plan wasn't to give us this excitement, but good on WWE, I guess, if the Seth Rollins injury is real, to make us definitely intrigued about what we're doing going forward, heading into Survivor Series, which is about a month away now, the final PLE of 2025, and the final PLE for John Cena just a few weeks away.